Claire Price sat stiffly on her best friend's couch, two garbage bags pressed against her legs like reminders of everything she had lost. 3 hours earlier she had a family. Now she had only the clothes she wore and her phone. "They really kicked me out, Tina," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Julie said I stole her necklace, and they didn't even question it." Tina stared at her in shock. "Your own sister said that. Claire, what is wrong with these people?" Claire wiped her tears slowly. "She set me up. I know she did. And my parents didn't even hesitate." Claire's childhood had always been a lesson in imbalance. Growing up in suburban Philadelphia, she learned early that love in her home wasn't shared. It was allocated according to Julie's moods. Their father, Mark, avoided disagreements like they were dangerous storms. Their mother, Sandra, cared more about appearances than their emotional needs. Julie, 3 years younger, became the adored child from the moment she arrived. "Julie is special," Sandra often said. "Claire, be responsible." Claire learned her role quickly. Hard work would be her path. Praise. That was Julie's by default. Claire never forgot that message. One memory followed Claire into adulthood. Both she and Julie begged for dance lessons. After weeks of pleading, Sandra smiled at Julie and said, "You'll start ballet, tap and jazz." Then she turned to Claire with a colder tone. "We can't afford lessons for both daughters. Julie has real talent." Claire remembered Julie's smug grin. Even years later, Julie threw it in her face. "Some people are born gifted," she'd say casually. Claire learned early to earn everything, even the things that should have been shared. And Julie? She simply expected the world to applaud her. Adulthood didn't change much. Claire built her life through hard work, graduated top of her class, became a software developer, earned a steady salary and paid her own bills. Julie floated between part-time jobs and still lived at home, rent-free, spoiled and protected. Every Sunday, Claire visited out of duty. The conversations always centered on Julie. "Julie might travel soon," Sandra would boast. "Julie met someone new." Rarely did anyone ask Claire how she was truly doing. And when they did, it felt empty, just habit. To her parents, Claire was dependable but invisible, the daughter who didn't need anything. Everything changed after Grandma Helen passed away. She had been the only family member who truly saw Claire's worth. In her will, she left her antique diamond necklace, more meaningful than valuable, to her oldest granddaughter, Claire. When the lawyer announced it, Sandra's expression tightened. Julie's smile dropped and she snapped softly. "That necklace should have been mine." Claire held the jewelry box protectively. "Grandma wanted me to have it," she said. Julie scoffed. Maybe she was confused. Sandra didn't argue. From that moment, Julie's jealousy simmered beneath her fake smiles, quietly waiting for the perfect moment to explode. The Sunday dinner that changed everything began like any other. Claire arrived at her parents' house holding a homemade apple pie, hoping it might soften the usual tension. Inside, the same scene unfolded. Sandra hovered over Julie, fussing over her hair, while Mark sat quietly in his armchair pretending to read the newspaper. During dinner, Julie announced she had a new boyfriend named Kevin. "He works in real estate," she said proudly. Sandra nearly glowed. "Finally," she whispered, "someone worthy of our Julie." Nobody asked Claire about her job, her life, or anything at all. She had become background noise. After dinner, Claire helped clear the table, something Julie had never done. Halfway through washing dishes, Claire noticed Julie heading upstairs with her phone in hand. Julie didn't usually take long in the bathroom, but this time she stayed gone for nearly 15 minutes. Claire didn't think much of it at the moment. "Probably posting selfies," she muttered under her breath. When everyone gathered in the living room for coffee, Julie returned looking strangely jittery. She kept checking her phone as if waiting for something. Claire noticed the shift immediately. Something was brewing behind those perfect smiles. Then Julie gasped dramatically, grabbing everyone's attention. "Oh my God, my necklace!" she cried, hand flying to her chest. Sandra ran toward her. What necklace, sweetheart? Julie's voice trembled. The diamond necklace Kevin gave me. I left it on the bathroom counter. It's gone. The entire house erupted into chaos. Mark checked behind the toilet. Sandra opened drawers. Julie paced like a distressed actress. Then her eyes locked on Claire. Slowly, deliberately. Claire was the only one alone downstairs, she said softly. Claire felt her heart plummet. Don't start, Julie, she warned. But Julie had already set her trap. Claire, did you go into the bathroom? Mark asked, suspicion creeping into his tone. No, Claire replied sharply. I was doing dishes the entire time. Ask anyone. Julie folded her arms. You've always been jealous of me, she whispered just loud enough for everyone to hear. Remember when you stole my bracelet in high school? I never stole anything. Claire snapped. Sandra's voice hardened. Claire, if you took the necklace, just return it. We won't be angry. I didn't take anything. But the room was already against her. She knew the look in their eyes. She had seen it her whole life. Sandra suddenly reached for Claire's purse. Let me see inside, she demanded. Absolutely not, Claire said, stepping back. I'm not a criminal. If you're innocent, why not let us check? Julie chimed. Before Claire could react, Sandra snatched the purse, dumped it onto the coffee table and gasped. A small velvet pouch sat among Claire's belongings. Julie shrieked. That's it. That's my necklace. Claire stared in horror. That wasn't there, she whispered. Julie, you planted that. Sandra cut her off with fury. How dare you blame your sister? You should be ashamed. Claire felt something inside her begin to break. Claire tried to steady her voice. Listen to me. Julie did this on purpose. She planted that necklace in my purse. Julie burst into believable tears. Why would I ever do that? She cried. You're my sister. Claire stared at her coldly. You've blamed me for everything since we were kids. Sandra stepped forward, pointing a finger in Claire's face. Stop it. You sound pathetic. You've always been jealous of Julie, her beauty, her charm, her success. Claire felt her throat tighten. Success, she whispered. She still lives at home. Sandra ignored her. Give us your house key. Now. You're kicking me out? Claire asked, barely able to breathe. Mark still wouldn't look at her. He stared at the floor like a guilty stranger. Until you admit what you did, Sandra said coldly. You're not welcome here. Julie folded her arms with a subtle smirk that only Claire noticed. Claire pulled her key from her pocket and dropped it on the table with a sharp clatter. You're making a mistake, she said quietly. One day you'll learn the truth. And I won't be here to hear your apology. Julie muttered behind her. Drama queen. Claire walked out without looking back. Outside, the October air bit through Claire's thin sweater. She didn't have her jacket. She had left it inside, and she refused to step back into that house. She stood on the porch, trembling not from the cold but from the betrayal. She called Tina with shaking hands. Claire. Tina answered immediately. Are you okay? Claire's voice cracked. They kicked me out. Julie framed me. Tina didn't hesitate. Stay where you are. I'm coming right now. 20 minutes later, Tina pulled up. Claire climbed into the car and finally broke down, crying the entire ride to Tina's apartment. Once inside Tina's apartment, Claire collapsed onto the couch and told her everything. Every lie, every accusation, every painful memory. Tina paced back and forth, furious. That girl is evil, she said. And your parents? How can they still not see who she really is? Claire rubbed her face. It's always been like this. They see me as the problem because it's easier. Tina sat beside her. Claire, you didn't do anything wrong. That was when Claire remembered something. One small detail that might change everything. She looked up slowly. Tina. I think I have proof. Claire explained the security camera situation. Months earlier, their building had package thefts. So she bought 2 cameras. A doorway camera and a tiny button camera disguised as a decorative pin that recorded everything to cloud storage. She wore the button camera to family dinners after Julie began making strange comments like, "Things will change soon," and, "I deserve better than what I've gotten." Tina's eyes widened. "You recorded today." Claire nodded and grabbed her phone. The camera synced automatically through Bluetooth. She found the file. "Let's watch it," Tina said, connecting Claire's phone to her TV. The video played. They watched dinner unfold exactly as Claire described. They watched her at the sink, washing dishes, never leaving her spot. Then came the moment. Julie stood, pretending to head to the bathroom. But she paused by Claire's chair. She looked around, checked that no one was watching, reached into her pocket, pulled out the velvet pouch, opened Claire's purse, dropped the pouch inside and zipped it. "That witch," Tina whispered. Claire felt a wave of emotion. Relief, anger, validation. "I knew it," she breathed. "I knew she did it." But the video wasn't the only shock. They continued watching. After the accusation, after the chaos, the camera caught Julie checking her phone repeatedly. At one moment, the screen reflection was clear enough to read. "Did it work?" Someone had texted her. Julie typed back. "Perfectly. She's out." Tina's jaw dropped. "Who is she texting?" "Kevin." Claire shook her head. "Why would her boyfriend care about getting me kicked out?" They opened Kevin's social media. After searching, Claire found his company photo. He worked for Prime Land Realty, a development company trying to buy her parents' house for months. Suddenly everything clicked. "Oh my gosh," Claire whispered. "Kevin wants the house. They've been trying to buy it for over a year. My parents kept refusing. But if I'm gone, no one can warn them." Tina gasped. "So Julie helped him." Claire nodded slowly. "She doesn't even realize she's being used. Or maybe she does." They spent hours researching Kevin and Prime Land Realty. What they found was disturbing. Kevin had dated 2 women before. Both had elderly parents. Both families sold their homes to the same development company. Far below market value. Now Claire's stomach twisted. "He's doing it again," she whispered. Claire searched deeper, finding an old article about an elderly woman in New Jersey who accused Kevin of manipulating her family into selling their home. The case was dropped due to lack of evidence. Claire also reached out to another former victim she found online, Patricia. Patricia explained everything. Kevin charmed her sister, convinced their mother she needed assisted living, then pressured the family to sell fast and cheap. "He ruined us," Patricia said. "Use anything you need." Claire recorded the call with permission. Now she had video proof of Julie's framing and testimony proving Kevin's pattern. Next, Claire met Tina's brother-in-law, James, a real estate lawyer. She showed him the evidence. Video, screenshots, Patricia's recording. James leaned back, impressed and disturbed. "This is a real case," he said. "Defamation, fraud, elder exploitation, possibly all 3. Claire asked the question burning inside her. "What do I do next?" James folded his hands. "Don't confront them yet. Let Julie and Kevin keep showing their intentions. Document everything. When you strike with undeniable truth." Claire nodded slowly. For the first time in years she felt power. Not loud, not dramatic. Quiet. Controlled. Ready. Sunday arrived again. A full week since Claire had been kicked out. She didn't go inside her parents' house. Instead, she parked down the street where she could watch without being seen. Kevin's car sat in the driveway, sleek and shiny like it belonged there. This was the first time he'd been invited to Sunday dinner, which confirmed exactly what Claire feared. He was embedding himself into the family. "He's moving fast," Claire muttered. She needed more information. Then she thought of someone unexpected. Hannah Collins, Julie's former best friend. They hadn't spoken in years, but Claire remembered one thing. Hannah hated Julie now. Claire messaged Hannah and explained everything. Julie's accusation, the necklace setup, Kevin's involvement, and the danger to her parents. Hannah's reply came instantly. "Julie screwed me over too," she wrote. "I'll help you." Hannah created a fake Instagram account and followed Julie, building rapport through comments and friendly DMs. Julie fell for it quickly, posting endless photos of herself and Kevin. In private messages, she bragged even more. "Kevin says we might move soon," Julie wrote. "Mom and Dad are finally thinking of selling the house." Claire screenshotted every message. Her worst fear was happening in real time. Claire knew she couldn't walk into that house alone with accusations, not after how quickly they believed Julie last time. She needed witnesses, authority, and undeniable proof. One name came to mind: Aunt Catherine, Mark's older sister. Catherine was 70, sharp, outspoken, and the only family member who ever challenged Sandra. She had seen through Julie years ago. Claire called her and explained everything. All of it: the framing, the eviction, the scheme. Catherine listened quietly, then said with steel in her voice, "I'm driving up Saturday. This ends now." For the first time, Claire felt like she had an ally. Claire also contacted a local news reporter known for exposing scams, Daniel Hayes from Channel 6. She sent him everything she had gathered: video proof, screenshots, witness testimony, company background. Daniel called her back quickly. "We've heard complaints about Prime Land Realty," he said. "Your documentation is exactly what we need to open an investigation." Claire agreed to let him wait nearby on Sunday, ready for backup if things escalated. Everything was lining up. She wasn't returning to her parents' home as a victim this time. She was returning as someone who finally had the truth, and the courage to use it. Sunday afternoon came cold and gray. Claire drove to her parents' home with Aunt Catherine in the passenger seat, reviewing the plan one more time. Tina followed behind in her own car to provide emotional support. Daniel Hayes and his cameraman were parked farther down the street, waiting for Claire's message. Claire rang the doorbell instead of walking in. She had no key now. Sandra opened the door, her expression turning from confusion to irritation. "Why are you here?" she snapped. Aunt Catherine stepped forward. "She's with me, Sandra. Move." Sandra froze. Catherine had always intimidated her. Inside, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Mark sat in his chair, startled. Julie sat on the couch, Kevin beside her like he already belonged to the family. All three stared as Claire walked in with Aunt Catherine. "What is she doing here?" Julie demanded. "You kicked her out." Catherine raised her hand sharply. "Sit down." Her voice cut through the room like a blade. Even Sandra obeyed instantly. Kevin stiffened, sensing danger. Catherine took a seat and folded her hands. "Last week, you accused Claire of theft. You humiliated her. You threw her into the cold. All without a shred of truth." "There was truth," Sandra insisted. "The necklace was in her purse." Catherine nodded slowly. "Yes, because Julie put it there." The room froze. Julie laughed nervously. "Why would I ever do that?" Claire stepped forward. "I have video." She pulled out her phone and connected it to the TV via Chromecast. Sandra's face drained of color. "Claire, don't you dare." "I'm showing the truth," Claire said. The video played. They watched Julie pause by the purse. They watched her check the room. They watched her slip the pouch inside. Clear. Undeniable. Sandra covered her mouth. Mark's eyes filled with shame. Julie jumped to her feet. "That video is fake. She edited it." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "Digital forensics can verify that." "Shall I call?" Julie fell silent. But Claire wasn't finished. The necklace was only part of a bigger plan. She turned directly to Kevin. "Prime Land Realty. That's your employer, right?" Kevin stood jaw tight. "I don't have to listen to this." "You date women to gain access to their families," Claire continued calmly. "Then you pressure them into selling their homes. You've done it before. I have witnesses." Kevin looked at Mark and Sandra, then at the door. Claire played the recording of Patricia explaining how Kevin manipulated her family into selling their home. Her voice echoed through the living room. He convinced my sister Mom needed assisted living. She ended up selling the house way below value. Mark's expression hardened. Is this true? Kevin didn't answer. Julie panicked. Kevin, tell them she's lying. But Kevin moved toward the exit. Claire sent a quick text. Now. Right then the doorbell rang. Mark opened it to find Daniel Hayes and his cameraman. Consumer Watch, Channel 6. We're investigating Prime Land Realty. Mr. Kevin Moore, care to comment? Kevin bolted, sprinting past Daniel and grabbing his car keys. The cameraman filmed the entire escape, clear as day. Julie watched helplessly as the man she defended ran from the scene. When Daniel stepped inside, Sandra nearly collapsed. Television, she whispered. Oh dear God. Daniel spoke calmly. Your family isn't the first they've targeted. But you might be the one who helps stop them. When Daniel left, Catherine turned to the family with a stern expression. Now that the lies are exposed, it's time we deal with the real problems in this house. The room fell into heavy, uncomfortable silence. The moment the door closed behind Daniel and his cameraman, Catherine took control of the room. She stood tall, her voice firm. This family has been living in denial for years. Today the truth arrived, whether you wanted it or not. Sandra looked stunned, trembling slightly. Mark sank deeper into his chair, face pale. Julie wiped her cheeks aggressively, angry rather than remorseful. Claire stood quietly, watching all of them. The people who had destroyed her trust, now forced to face what they had ignored. Catherine's eyes swept the room. We're going to have an honest conversation. No excuses. Mark spoke first, his voice low. Claire. I knew Julie lied sometimes. The words hit the room like a stone. Claire stiffened. You knew. Mark nodded shamefully. But confronting Sandra always led to arguments. It was easier to believe you were at fault. I chose peace over the truth. Claire swallowed hard. So you sacrificed me for peace. Mark's face tightened. I failed you, Claire. I am ashamed. Sandra snapped. Mark, don't start blaming me. Catherine turned sharply. No. You will take responsibility, Sandra. Your favoritism allowed Julie's behavior to grow into manipulation. Sandra's jaw tightened. I treated both my daughters fairly. Claire let out a small, bitter laugh. You never did. Not once. Julie crossed her arms defensively. Oh, here we go. The Claire pity show. Catherine glared at Julie. Sit down and be silent. Julie's mouth snapped shut. Catherine looked directly at Sandra. You allowed Julie to make Claire the scapegoat for everything. Even as a child, Claire worked hard, showed discipline, earned everything she has. But you rewarded Julie for simply existing. Sandra's eyes filled with tears she didn't want to shed. I didn't know. Claire whispered. Yes, you did. Julie finally exploded. Fine. I did it, okay. I put the necklace in her purse. Sandra gasped. Mark stared at her in disbelief. Julie, why? Julie pointed at Claire. Because she always gets everything. Grandma gave her the necklace. Everyone praises her for her job. And Kevin said. She stopped abruptly. Claire narrowed her eyes. Kevin said what? Julie looked trapped. He said if Mom and Dad sold the house, he and I could start a life together. He said Claire would try to ruin it. He said she needed to be pushed out. Catherine shook her head. And you believed him. Julie sank slowly onto the couch. I thought he loved me, she whispered. He promised me things. Mark's voice broke. He used you. Julie wiped her nose angrily. I know that now. Sandra finally looked at Claire, really looked at her, for the first time in years. Her voice trembled. Claire, I didn't realize. Claire stepped back. I tried to tell you for years. You just didn't want to hear anything that didn't paint Julie as perfect. Sandra began to cry. I'm sorry. Claire felt no satisfaction. Only exhaustion. Apologies were easy when the truth could no longer be denied. Once the emotions settled, Catherine guided the conversation. This family cannot continue living like this. If you want any relationship with Claire, things must change. He turned to Mark. You must learn to stop avoiding conflict. Then to Sandra. And you must stop enabling Julie's behavior. Sandra nodded weakly. I understand. Claire watched them closely. She had heard promises before. Empty ones. This time she needed proof of change. Mark finally looked at Claire with sincerity. I want to fix this. Truly. If you'll let me. Claire breathed slowly. We'll see. But it won't be easy. Or fast. Julie stood up abruptly. I'm going upstairs. Catherine blocked her with a single look. You will sit and listen. Julie sat back down, almost shrinking. You owe Claire an apology, Catherine said. Julie rolled her eyes. Fine. Claire, sorry. Claire shook her head. No. Say what you're sorry for. Julie exhaled shakily. I'm sorry I framed you. I'm sorry I let Kevin manipulate me. I'm sorry I ruined everything. Her voice cracked. I didn't think it would go this far. Claire said nothing. She didn't forgive her, not today. Maybe not ever. But hearing the truth mattered. The conversation stretched for hours. Catherine mediated everything. Truths, confessions, long-buried resentments. By the end, Claire felt emotionally drained but strangely lighter. She could finally see the cracks in her family clearly. They weren't unfixable, but they were dangerous when ignored. When Claire and Catherine finally stood to leave, Sandra softly touched Claire's arm. Will you come back next Sunday? Claire hesitated. I don't know. It was the most honest answer she could give. Sandra nodded, accepting the uncertainty. Mark walked them to the door. Claire, thank you for protecting us. Even after what we did. Claire nodded silently. Outside, Tina hurried over. How did it go? Claire gave a faint smile. The truth came out. All of it. Tina hugged her tightly. I'm proud of you. Behind them, Daniel Hayes approached. The footage we captured will help open the investigation, he told Claire. You probably saved other families too. Claire nodded gratefully. Thank you for coming. Daniel smiled. If more people documented the truth like you, scams like this wouldn't survive. Claire looked at her phone, where the tiny button camera app still blinked. She whispered, Documentation saved me. Literally. The next weeks were difficult. News spread fast. Prime Land Realty came under investigation. Kevin was arrested on fraud-related charges after multiple victims stepped forward. Sandra and Mark spent days processing what had nearly happened. Julie became distant and embarrassed, avoiding friends who now whispered behind her back. Claire didn't gloat. She focused on healing. She returned to work, kept building her life, and slowly allowed her father back in through short calls and texts. She kept her boundaries firm. Healing would not come through rushing. It would come through truth, time, and choosing peace over the past.